Hey everyone, this is part one of a two-part episode.
And in my opinion, the dead bird on the beach at the end was that bird who traveled all the way up to Oxnard to be like, I'm going to fucking be dead in your path if it's the last thing I do.
It's time to take A Therapeutic Dose, a prescription-strength reality TV podcast that explores the intersection of reality TV and therapy. Possible side effects may include entertainment, strong emotional reactions, and/or laughter. Here are your hosts, Ramona Ramirez and Margie McGee.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to A Therapeutic Dose, where we meet at the intersection of reality TV and therapy. I am Margie McGee, and with me, as always, is my dear friend and co-host.
Hello, I am Ramona Ramirez. Margie, it is so good to see you. I'm thrilled to be here. We were supposed to be recording this morning at 8:30, and you texted me and said, can I have an extra half hour? Can we start at 9? And I was like, you know what? I forgot we were even recording this morning. I thought we were recording tonight.
You're like, you can have 12 extra hours.
Oh,
I
my
was like,
God.
all right.
Yeah.
Well, this episode was so intense that like I couldn't get through it. It was so dense with everything, every issue, every fury I've held for Kyle this season. It's all being purged in this episode, and it felt really good.
As Sheena Shea would say, I'm pointing at my forearm. It's all happening.
It happened.
It's all happening, and it was well worth the wait. You know, you and I were talking about it before we started that, you know, it didn't happen a moment too soon. Like this, it's been marinating now for, I don't know if she was on the first season, but at least since, season 2? So
Kyle?
it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Yeah. So
really-
this is sweet justice. God damn it.
It is. Like last week I said, there's enough evidence to indict Kyle on this. And then I felt like this whole episode was the people versus Kyle Richards. And every time she said something, it was like the editors were like, objection. And then there were like 30 clips of her doing the exact opposite of what she claims to do or claims to be. It was so satisfying. But I do wonder how she'll interpret it, you know, if she'll see it the same way.
I wondered the same thing, and I actually have notes about that. But it's funny that you say indictment and the evidence, because the way I described the clips, the montage, was Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C. Like my notes felt like I was writing an outline for an essay, and here was all my proof. Kyle Richards is a piece of shit. Opening paragraph. Body. Closing, like A+. I'm going to turn it in. The teacher's going to be like, yeah,
Yeah,
here you go.
Got your doctorate in Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, hilarious.
But it's
hilarious.
True. It felt like the closing argument in this like ongoing case that has been so just upsetting and disturbing. And this season has just exploded. And again, Al-Anonism is a progressive illness like all the others. And she is sick. She is sick.
In denial.
I don't even know if she's aware that something's wrong, because she's so convinced that everybody else is wrong. I don't think she even like can look at herself, which might be like a survival mechanism. She might die if she had to like take her own inventory. But the level of commitment to turning everything on everyone else was shocking in this episode.
I mean, this is what happens when listen. I think I had an advantage when it came to when I started going to therapy. I was only 16, so I can't remember who recommended that we go, that 3 of my family members go. You know what? They won't give a shit. So my mom, my sister, and I could go to a therapist who specialized in the family dynamics of people in a family with an alcoholic or a drug addict. And so I started against my will, and I was so mad in there. Like there were sometimes I would just go in and I would just like not talk. And my therapist was the most compassionate, loving person on the planet Earth. So her love and her unconditional acceptance and her determination and commitment to get me to see in myself what she saw. Like, you know how in the program they say, I'm going to believe it for you until you believe it? Like, you might not believe that you can get recovery, but I believe it's so hard for you that just lean on my faith,
Yeah.
you know?
And that whole will love you until you can love yourself.
Yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly what she did for me. My point is that I'm very aware that because I was put into therapy when I was still a child, technically, you know, I didn't have to wait until my 20s or my 30s to have that starting to be like a regular part of my life, you know? I don't think I went to therapy when I first started college. I may not have gone back until after I graduated, but I went back. I went back after I graduated from college, and I was still in my early 20s, you know? My point is that Kyle and I come from very similar backgrounds. Her mother sounds a lot like my dad. And even though I only have one younger sister, like, I probably had more of the Kathy role. And my sister probably had more of the Kyle role, you know? Because I don't think I'm Kim. Maybe I am Kim, but I'm not an addict, but maybe I'm the Kim. No, I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe I'm the Kathy, but I'm not the Kathy anymore if I was, because I've been going to therapy since I was 16. So, God, this is my really long-winded way of saying that I understand that I went into therapy at the age of 16. You know, some people might not want to seek out therapy until they're in their late 20s, 30s, 40s, whenever, you know? So while Kyle and I grew up in a similar household, I no longer employ those coping mechanisms that she does or Kathy does or Kim does, because I learned how to see them and I didn't like it, and I worked in therapy to change it. And where I'm at now is finally I'm at, like, I don't want to say I'm at the nucleus of the trauma and the childhood residual stuff, but the feelings that I didn't think I could weather, the feelings I thought that I would die from pain or fear, I'm realizing now that I'm not. And it's taken me since, you know, it's taken me 25, 30 years of therapy to get there. You know, you always say that these shows are a cautionary tale and a mirror, and this one was just, I mean, I took notes for 3 hours. I was exhausted mentally after I was done taking notes. I cried while taking notes because of stuff that came up for me that I've talked about in therapy or that I've been coming to realize. I mean, it was heavy. It was heavy. It was heavy.
It was heavy in places and satisfying and all of the things.
It was, yes. This is The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Season 14, Episode 9, Beachy Keen, a.k.a. the most validating and vindicating episode of Beverly Hills I've ever seen in my life. Yeah.
Yeah.
It spoke to my ADHD bloodlust for righteous justice, and I reveled in it, and I snorted it up. Is it okay if I go off on a little tangent for a minute that feels like it's relatable? I know for me, it's like it goes like I'm not petty, but it's schadenfreude times 10 mixed with a little bit of impish glee, like, you know, like it's not just schadenfreude because that sounds very elegant and sophisticated, you know, but petty sounds too negative, and I feel that I'm owed this joy. I feel that I'm
entitled to this experience.
I am entitled to the experience of watching Kyle get hers. So I've read in some ADHD spaces that for women with ADHD spaces, that the need for justice is more intense than someone without it. And it's referred to as justice sensitivity. So, I wanted to make sure that was a real thing before I kind of leaned into it. You know why, though? Because I'm always so effing skeptical to tell people I even have ADHD, because it's like everyone has ADHD now.
Yes, they do. We all do.
Yeah.
So what? That's the piece where I'm like, why are you so mad that everyone has it? Everyone
Right?
has it. They're just finally diagnosed. You know what I mean?
It just like whenever I talk
do we
about
care?
it, it's like it touches on that fear of whether or not people are going to believe it. And so I wanted to find proof because I still have things to work on. Because if I aspire to get to the day where I can just take an action and not give a shit what someone thinks. Like,
But it's responsible. It's responsible.
Okay,
if
and
it is a
you know what? That's a very good
diagnosis.
point. That's
Yeah,
a very good point.
we don't want to be putting something out that is just like
You're right. That's a very good point. Thank
malarkey.
you. See how I just like go to like beat myself up instead of, I mean, that what you just said is so reasonable. Ooh, tears. Okay, welling up. Okay, so I Googled ADHD and women and need for justice. And I found a study from the European Journal of Medicine, European Journal of Medical and Health Sciences, excuse me. And this is a legit study with peer reviews and citations galore. And it said, and I quote, ADHD females also exhibit a high rate of justice sensitivity, and they may assume the role of a protector of victims. This probably speaks to my heightened sense of not being able to hear a child crying without just like my blood running cold and hoping to God that it's just like I'm tired or I'm hungry and not the result of a parent being mean. That's immediately where my brain goes. Okay, so they may assume the role of the protector of victims. This tendency is associated with rejection sensitivity disorder, where a heightened sense of perceived injustice may produce an aggressive approach to the organization or individual considered responsible and may ultimately lead to the assumption of a victim mentality themselves.
Ooh, that's right on.
I started crying, Margie. It's like all these years I've heard from some of my loved ones, like, you know, when I think about my dad never apologizing to me, or I, you know, get triggered by someone that cuts me off or is just rude in general. I've been told, Ramona, you're holding on to this anger and this obsession with things having to be fair and it's only harming you. And I've heard that for years. And I understand somewhere that that's true, but it doesn't feel like harm. It feels like unmet need. Because I couldn't get to a place of forgiveness or even acceptance, I felt flawed, like I had a flawed character, like something was wrong with me. And I still have challenges with accepting unacceptable behavior across the spectrum, whether it's egregious, you know, a criminal or just someone, you know, talking on their speakerphone while they're in a line full of people at the cafe, you know, like this world isn't about you, motherfucker. And it's like, I focus on it. It turns out that this response I have to things is like, it's in my fucking biology. It's the reason why I had a visceral and palpable reaction to Kyle getting called out with proof in this episode. It's not just because I'm a petty bitch. That's maybe how I come across, but it's like, it's my fucking brain wiring, man. And I cried and I was stunned. And it's like I finally understood the origin story of my psychic and cosmic scoreboards. Anyway, net, like my brain wiring is why I love seeing Kyle get hers.
It's so interesting though, because I was like, your petty impish glee, which I think is like so adorable.
Oh,
and
God
like
bless. Thank
a
you.
signature giggle of yours that I love. But I was like enraged. I couldn't take it anymore. I was like, stop it. Stop lying. Stop doubling down. I was literally like, I was so tense and pissed off. Like the reason it took me so long to get through it is because I had to like take breaks. Because when taking notes on this, it's a different experience. When I watch it just for fun and for free, I can just sort of like let it roll over me and off me when I turn the TV off. But like having to look at it in writing, I'm like, this is wrong. This is absolutely wrong. And that diagnosis is really interesting because the danger zone for me is the part where my righteous indignation flips on itself and becomes a liability because then I become a victim. That's terrifying to me.
Yeah.
And that's where that's where I limit my own life and cause harm to myself. that's such an unhealthy headspace for me.
Oh,
But it's so
no
interesting
doubt.
to hear the origin of that. It actually helps kind of deconstruct, oh, I see what happened. So I don't need to go that far with it. I can
Yep.
go back a click and just be like, yeah, they were wrong. Now what? Let's
Yeah,
move on.
that's such a good point. And don't get me wrong, I was enraged also when I was watching her, but it's like the impish glee and the schadenfreude and the fucking satisfyingness of it all. That was like during the clips, and that was when Sutton said, "Garcelle and Sutton, we're no minions." And I was like, oh, my nipples got hard. That probably sounds disgusting, but metaphorically, like I was so over the moon. I was just like, oh, it's happening. It's happening. Something right is happening.
I mean, yeah. And literally from tip to taint of this episode, everything next to Kyle, I've written in all caps with exclamation points. I'm furious from the beginning. So we open at her house. She calls her daughter Portia. And her first question is, how was it sleeping at Dad's house? Which is like so loaded. Why don't you just say good morning? How did you sleep? But it now puts this whole added bullshit on her daughter of like, oh, I did choose to sleep at Dad's house. And I hear in your tone that you're lonely. And now I have to figure out a way to calm you down. This is so fucked.
Man.
So I was
Oh my
immediately
God.
pissed at her, first line out. And then she like whines about being an empty nester until ironically a bird tries to break into her house.
I just like, I was stunned. This scene made me so uncomfortable and itchy. And you're
But
right.
it was such a great setup.
Oh, fuck yeah, it was.
And the next question out to Portia is, how is your car? The car that I bought you, so you owe me. You owe me this time on the phone. You owe me this invitation I'm about to twist your arm into and ignore I'm not going to read the room. I will refuse to, and I'll just keep hammering on it until the last word out of Portia's mouth is, okay.
Oh, she just did not.
She just won't let anyone else have an experience unless it suits her. So, wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel this scene made me feel like Kyle has no really close friends that she can talk to, or hang out with even. Like, I wonder if she had close friends, if she'd be like less desperate to hang out with her daughters. Like, I get that parents who have good relationships with their kids want to spend as much time with them as possible, but she just felt like she was trying to fill her loneliness with her daughters when it's like, Portia was giving her signs she wanted lunch to be just her and her sisters.
Well, just so everybody's up to speed.
Oh, yes,
Portia's-
sorry.
Kyle asks, how's the car? And Portia's like, fine. And Kyle's like, well, your sister has to be in it when you drive it because you're still too young to drive alone. And she's like, that's fine. I'm going to go get lunch with sisters, which I thought was so cute. And Kyle eagerly asks, where are you going and what time? And there's silence. And she just goes, I don't know yet. And you can hear the reluctance already building.
100.
And she goes, well, can you just tell me in case I want to come? And then there's a very slow answer of like, well, I just woke up. I don't know. And she goes, well, when you do know, can you tell me in case I can get over there? And that's when there's like a beat of silence. And then she goes, okay. And it's just like resignation. Would you want to show up to that? Like, and then in Kyle's confessional, she says, I think my girls want to spend time together without me so they can discuss what's going on. Yes, of course they do. Let them. Let them. I know you're lonely, but like, let them go through this experience that they did not choose. They are true victims of this, you know, like this is a time for them to be together, support each other, talk it through, work it through with each other. That's like such a gift of siblings. So won't you let them experience that for one lunch instead of hounding her about like, oh, you slept at your dad's? Don't you love the car I got you? Where are you going? Can I please come? Oh my God.
It was, yeah. Yes, I do think that they want to process stuff together. They're all going through it together. No one's going to understand what they're going through better than the four of them, you know, if Farrah's going to, which she probably is. I mean, they're all really close. It's cute, whatever. But there's also just something, even if they weren't going through stuff, that young people just like to hang out with other young people. And it's developmentally appropriate at Portia's age to start to disengage from her parents. Not in a negative way, but just it's natural and biological to start forming your independence when you're a teenager. And it's like, sometimes my sister and I like to hang out by ourselves. And sometimes we like our mom to come too. Like, we're very close to my mom. My mom's so rad to hang out with. We always have a great time. And there's sometimes I just want to pal around with my sister and we can do our inside crass jokes and my mom doesn't get frustrated with how much I swear or inside jokes and all that crap. You know what I mean? So it's just a different vibe, but it's not, one's not better than the other. I don't know. I know she's needing, I know this is a huge adjustment for Kyle, but I still was like,
but she's
shocked,
responsible
man.
for making that adjustment instead of making her
yes.
children responsible for her lonely feelings. That's just not fair.
I wrote, it's clear Kyle is lonely and having a hard time with these changes. Do something about it. Go to therapy for support during these massive transitions. Find a support
or just
group.
Sit at home and feel lonely. I'm sorry about it. But like sometimes there's nothing to do but have the uncomfortable feeling until it passes.
You're right.
Like, and loneliness is awful. Like, it's the source of so many of my self-destructive behaviors. It's just like not wanting to sit in that. I get it. But I hope I would have the awareness not to make a child part of the solution. Oh my God.
My God. I don't know. I think she's running from, I think it's a combination of running from her past, and there's nowhere to run right now. There's nowhere to run but to the feelings.
I was looking at her, you know, they did that big opening sequence all through the beautiful home that they live in, that she lives in now. And so she has done everything external. She bought the new house. She renovated the new house. Her body has never been more fit and tight and gorgeous. Facelift, fillers, Botox, hair, fucking great, looks perfect. Tried dating Morgan, left her husband, still miserable. That's the problem. And now she's like, maybe my daughters will solve it. It's like nothing will solve it. Like, it's yours. You will carry it with you everywhere you go. And anytime you're alone with yourself, it's going to come at you like a monster from the shadows, and she's just unwilling to deal with it yet. And I don't fault her except for the fact that she's involving a 16-year-old in her process. That part really bothers me.
Yeah.
I don't mind Morgan, Mauricio, PK, Dorit. They're all adults. They can figure it out. But to make your sweet 16 birthday girl to ask her 3 times to join them for lunch when she clearly, her tone said like, absolutely not.
I know.
I said I'm having lunch with my sisters. That's what I said. Listen.
And Kyle just like, her tone was
desperate.
It was desperate. It was panicked, like a little bit of aggression, just like panic and desperate. It had high stakes whether or not they were going to let her come to that lunch.
And poor Portia's only 16, so of course she was like, okay. And again, having just been reminded that she got this massive, beautiful car, like all these things, it's like the guilt and the manipulation and like all of it is just so innate in Kyle. I don't even think Kyle knows she's doing it. It's just how she communicates. It's so ingrained in her now.
It is just, it's so wild. It's so,
yucky.
This scene made me so itchy. So itchy.
It was the perfect setup to the episode, though. I was like, there, now we can see all of the things that aren't working for Kyle, and now we'll get to see more with evidence to back it up. So she hangs up with Portia and immediately FaceTimes Erica because God forbid she sit in silence for half a second. And Erica calls everyone weighing in on Kyle. You know, she thinks it's hilarious to refer to everyone as the board of directors. Kyle thinks it's hilarious to say, I'm having a full-blown menty-b. Stop. Please stop. And then in a confessional, I thought this was really interesting. Kyle said, in all these years in this group, this is the worst I've ever felt. And I wrote in all caps, meaning this is the least amount of control you've ever had over everybody. It is not about how you feel. It is about how your manipulation mechanisms are failing and you're furious. And so you're about to take a 2-week leave of absence because you're so fucking mad that you can't control anyone anymore. And I love it.
Oh my God. I mean, my whole life is being questioned. Are you shitting me?
She goes, my marriage, my sexuality. And I'm like, because you made those things a storyline last season. They're being questioned because you questioned them as your storyline. Remember the reunion when someone asked if you would consider dating Morgan, and you were like, I don't know, I'm open to anything. Like, you did that on TV.
She was in a fucking video with her.
The whole last season.
Wannabe bondage outfit. I can't let it go.
For Kyle to be surprised that people were questioning her marriage. I'm like, you brought it into question. You brought it. I don't understand.
Oh, God.
And then she says now her character and integrity are being questioned. It's like, because you're doing questionable shit. So either you just calmly refute it if it's not true, or you behave like this and throw a tantrum. And so we all know that your character is trash. Like, that's all I could make of that.
My last note in this scene was she is full fucking hip.
I mean, so many times I wrote this in here. I did appreciate Erica's sort of this diplomatic way of bowing out of the whole thing. But I guess she did come back in to take Kyle's side for the rest of the episode. So ignore this note, moving on. It did make me laugh at the end when the bird hit the window again. And it reminded me, do you remember, I couldn't remember the story and I forgot to look it up, but Kyle told some story once about she and her sisters had a fight, and they came into the kitchen the next morning and there was a dead bird on the ground and they thought it was Big Kathy, like sending them a message. Do you remember this?
I do remember this.
Okay. So the bird is ramming itself against the window and I'm like, she's like, what does this bird want? I'm like, it's your mom. And she is dissatisfied with your behavior, as are all of us. And in my opinion, the dead bird on the beach at the end was that bird who traveled all the way up to Oxnard to be like, I'm going to fucking be dead in your path if it's the last thing I do.
Holy fucking shit, Margit. That was fucking funny.
I mean, you remember that story though, right?
Yes, I totally remember that story.
I just remember the dead bird and I'm like, Kyle is just attracting dead fowl.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I also, when you said that you wrote down, you said you underlined it, or my point is I bold italicized it, and then even within the bold italicized notes about Kyle, sometimes I had to underline shit too. Like, it was an aggressive, yeah.
I exercised every font option as
yes,
well. It's
I
all,
did.
everything
I mean,
is like,
it was
in the middle of a sentence, everything's in caps because I'm furious.
Me
and then
too,
in the middle,
Margie.
there's like you're doing questionable shit, and then italicized, capitalized, underlined, bold, and you're doing it on camera. I'm just so mad. Like,
I know.
The injustice of it all. Like, stop doing this. We are all watching what you're doing, and you are aware there are cameras collecting this footage. Like, why? Stop being a liar.
Oh my God. It was just, you're right. It was the perfect amuse-bouche for the feast we were about to embark on. Speaking of feast, Bose and Dorit arrive at Meet for lunch, and Bose is a fucking vision. She's so gorgeous. I'm just stunned every time she enters a scene.
You look so fly,
said
Dorit.
I know.
Hearing Dorit say fly was
I know.
hard.
It's just, don't do that.
Whatever. She's going through a divorce. She can have a year of saying weird shit. But
don't do that.
Yeah.
Dorit says she feels like she has a friend in the group that has her best interest. I do too. I really do. And again, I'm cautiously optimistic. I understand that we're seeing a different side of Dorit. You know what? Wait, I'm going to break something down in real time. I'm still holding on to Dorit of the last few years. I'm not, I totally didn't even entertain for a minute that she's capable of change.
This whole season, I think
I'm gonna give her, not that I need to give her grace, but like I'm gonna applaud her for how far she's come. And that's okay that I can still have reservations about other things that I find that I don't think that she's finished. But I think she's
made great strides.
Yeah, she's making
more
strides.
Than anyone else has.
Last episode, she did open up the conversation with Garcelle. So,
and in fairness to her, she took it as far as Garcelle was willing to go in that moment.
Yeah.
Like, another offense is to be like, I need to unburden myself, and so I'm going to tell you everything now.
Yeah,
and what
Margie.
Dorit did was sort of gently put out feelers, and Garcelle was tepid, understandably, because it was so insulting what she did do. And so I think there's room for growth between those two, but I think Dorit's right to give it time and space and room to breathe. Because it was, I don't think, if I'm Garcelle, I don't ever forget that, but I can work on forgiving it,
Right.
But
Right.
I would need time and space for that too.
So, you know what? Maybe it's true. Maybe she and Bose had an immediate meeting of the souls and at the Denim and Diamonds party. And maybe,
Oh no, that was the avant-garde party.
oh,
where
sorry, they met at
first
the
in her
avant-garde party. That's
crazy
right,
record
where she was
hat.
wearing her record hat. Oh,
Yeah.
God. Oh, God. That's right. Battle of the fucking antlers. Hilarious. Anyway, I'm happy that because Bose, she can see through bullshit. She can see through bullshit, man. So maybe, I always maintain that you are the company that you keep. I think that your friends can be a reflection of you in like a great way. Like I feel like sometimes I remind myself when I'm having a really bad low self-esteem day, I remind myself you wouldn't have friends the quality that you do if you weren't the same. What I'm saying is that they seem like genuine friends, and if Bose is accepting Dorit where she is and likes her as much as she seems to,
It's
maybe
water seeks its own
yeah,
level.
exactly. Oh, okay. All right. I'm
I
stoked.
mean, and you said Bose sees things clearly, and she absolutely does. And I this was the first moment of like biting into a juicy burger with a potato bun and like the perfect amount of sauce.
Co-sign.
Bose asked Dorit
Co-sign.
to clarify Kyle's claim that she never knew anything about Dorit's struggles with PK. And Dorit explains that she first shared with Kyle over a year ago at that one-on-one dinner that
Yep.
was filmed that she was sincerely concerned that she and PK were not going to go the distance. And in a confessional from Bose, she just said everything so directly and perfectly. She goes, Kyle continues to lie. And her outrage is palpable, at least through my screen. Maybe I was projecting, but I was like, thank you for saying it with the right amount of wretched fury. Of like,
Yes.
this is gross.
Yeah.
And she is specific. She's like, she lies about the depth of her knowledge, about the depth of her relationship with PK. And if Kyle is afraid of looking bad, she's looking worse now. And I was like, thank you. Finally, someone said it. And it was really satisfying to hear it and hear it said in that tone of like outrage, disbelief, like this is unacceptable.
I mean, oh.
And
Then,
okay, go ahead.
Oh,
boy,
God.
we're both
Then-
like hesitating to touch this third rail.
honestly, I was,
My God.
Beth Crosby, who was on the podcast at the very beginning of November, Margie and I are on a text thread, and today Beth sent us the most hilarious voice memo about the day that Dorit and PK separated. It was PK's sponsor, the three of them. And I was stunned. I was disgusted. I was like,
I just
this
wrote-
is not good, dude.
I wrote, PK's AA sponsor needs Al-Anon. You cannot do that, sir. But look, so that is my first thought. So Dorit explains that they decided to separate in this conversation in their backyard involving Dorit, PK, and PK's AA sponsor. The sponsor did most of the talking, suggesting that they take time apart. So I was outraged initially. And then my second thought was maybe they needed a third party to get through to Dorit because Dorit was like, well, I never knew anything about a separation until our backyard. I'm like, wait a minute. I remember at the single PK dinner, he said, we need time apart. We need no contact. We need, basically, he was saying all of the things that are a separation. So I wonder if he needed a third party to communicate to her without him flipping out. Again, I'm projecting on my experience with addicts when they get frustrated. They don't think clearly. They don't try to redirect to get the other person to understand. They just start blowing up. Yeah, he said at that beef carpaccio dinner, we are codependent and we need to go no contact. And whether that's the right or wrong approach, he did try to communicate that to her. So for her to say, I was stunned that we were going to separate. I'm like, were you?
And if I may add, at that same beef carpaccio dinner, he also said he stood up, did a spin in his new outfit from fucking John Varvatos on Robertson, conveniently located next to the log cabin. where they they have a lot of AA meetings. But he stood up, did a spin, and said, single PK. He literally looked her in the eyes and said, single PK.
Yeah. And yet she was somehow blindsided. So
Bro.
I do wonder if the sponsor wasn't there. And I also wonder about Dorit's account. Was it just the sponsor that was talking, or was it, you know what I mean? Like, I know that I might misinterpret an occasion like that just from the shock of it all.
Yeah, that
being
makes
like,
sense.
who the hell are you, and why are you talking at all? And why are you in my backyard drinking the lemonade I made? Like, what are you doing, you weird stranger?
Oh my
But
God.
I don't know what the hell happened, but it was weird. It was weird. No matter what, her recounting of it, I was like, I'm uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
I wish it
so
had been
inappropriate.
It just feels like if you need a third party, like a marriage counselor is the better choice, PK, rather than, I would never. I'm a sponsor in a couple of programs, and like, I'm available for people to bookend on the either side of doing something difficult. But the whole point in my experience of recovery is to try to do it keeping as close as you can to the principles of the 12 steps, failing a million times because it's a new way to live your life, and then trying some more until it becomes better. But having someone come in and hold your hand is like, is PK, like Beth said, is he going to get better? Because this seems like a really weird, easier, softer way kind of move.
I don't think so. To me, and so that Beth's memo said that is he going to get better? And my memo responding was that this, to me, smacked of a brand of men alcoholics in AA. Not all, a brand.
Yeah, definitely not all.
Not all at all. I'm not saying that at all.
Truly wonderful, recovered, creative forces in this
100%. The one that I'm talking about is the one that's like the unchecked ego and the big book thumper that like just, I bet his sponsor is the kind that just like speaks in AA slogans and platitudes, but doesn't really connect with people. It's that kind of male alcoholic in AA. Do you know the type I'm talking about?
I think so. I just feel like it's hard to assign that without knowing what actually happened.
You're right.
And as much as I do love Dorit and I believe she's changed a lot, I do think, remember, she entered the season going like, I'm divorcing from my husband who's a raging alcoholic. It's like, not your story to tell. Oh my God. So I do wonder if she really knows of what she speaks. I don't know if she knows what the function of a sponsor is.
Okay.
I don't know if she's familiar with the 12-step program. So I don't really know what happened. I understand how she's reporting it, but I don't know if that's the whole story. You know what I mean? So I have a hard time trying to, I can't imagine what the hell that was like, honestly. I was like, I was lost. I'm like, what happened? Whoa. Again, marriage counselor would have been the better choice for such a conversation.
Or like a mediator even. I don't know. Just like.
A sponsor is just so, not that they are, but they are seemingly biased, whether they are or not.
Yeah.
That person belonged to PK in that moment. So he had an advocate and Dorit was alone. And that feels like an ambush, whether it is or not. So, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't. PK had an unfair advantage. He put Dorit in an extra vulnerable position.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah. God, how I would just feel. I think I would feel humiliated. I think I would feel really humiliated.
Yeah, and in fairness, PK is new in recovery, so he is in the phase of making every mistake, because it's like you got to crawl and wobble a lot before you walk. But yeah, this is just, it's like, it really is like feeling someone's recovery in real time. And it is the beginning. So it's like, I don't know if he's going to stay on the beam or not. It's so wobbly. It makes me nervous. For his kids, mostly, of course.
I'm okay. I'm going to say something, and if you think I'm being too harsh, you obviously, I always invite you to tell me. I encourage you to tell me.
It's what we do with each other.
You do. I think PK is constitutionally incapable. of being honest with himself and others. I know more will be revealed, but like his behavior right now is just...
I would have said the same of Steve-O 20 years ago.
Oh my God, Margie, that's such a good point.
And that man is like a beacon of recovery. He is trying to help his friends with loving detachment in glorious evidence. Like he's amazing.
Oh my God.
So I just don't know. Like that is what's miraculous about these 12-step rooms is like some of the darkest dirt gutter bottoms that you don't think have any way out. PK could totally come clean, take responsibility for his actions, do a little jail time, and make a great life for himself. But who knows? Who knows?
I mean, here's my argument. I'm like, yeah, but Steve-O's always charming. I was never in a relationship with him, obviously, but like on TV, on Jackass and, like...
On Jackass, it wasn't a reality show. It was a sketch show,
Oh my God. Yeah.
We didn't get to know him. I don't know. Anyways,
Yeah.
I never know.
That's not why anyone called to talk about Steve-O.
Well, no, but I mostly just am like, I don't know what to make of PK, which is how I feel about most alcoholics when they're sort of hitting a bottom. It's like, I don't know what to make of you.
Yeah.
And I just know I kind of want to get away from you because you're either going to go somewhere really dark and it'll be sad and over, or you're going to emerge and that you're going to have to find other people to help you do that because I can't invest in PK. But his sponsor clearly is, so good for that.
Oh my God. Oh my God. No. Abandon hope, ye all who enter here. For now.
For what, PK?
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Yeah.
We heard one side of that story from...
yeah, you're right. You're right.
And again, I do wonder if PK was trying to protect Dorit from him, or his sponsor was, because my guess is that, again, I'm projecting. My guess is that, because they talked about it at that dinner, we get so volatile. If we spoke to each other, if we spoke to the waiter the way we speak to each other, we would be kicked out. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if PK was like, I need to get this done and I need her to understand and take it seriously. If I say it and she comes back at me with anything, I'm going to fucking rip her head off, get personal and fight. And so maybe the sponsor was like, maybe I can mitigate that and just have you stay focused and on topic. So if you ever veer into personal digs about whatever they were coming at each other for, she called him fat, he called her whatever. At that dinner, we saw it. It was harmful and awful. So maybe the sponsor was there to be like, whoop, nope. We are in one lane today. We are here to discuss the state of this marriage and what the next steps are. I just don't know. That's all I'm saying. It's like, I don't like PK. I do not want to see ever hang out with him ever. Ugh. But I also don't know what happened. This is so overwhelming and traumatic for her that I don't know if she's seeing clearly. I don't know what I would make of that if I'd never heard of 12-step rooms before. I'd be like, what the fuck is happening? And then I would paint myself as a victim because that is what Al-Anons do, Dude,
you never fail to get me to see something that when you say it, I'm like, oh my God, of course. Yeah.
I mean,
and see, I wanted to like make myself wrong for not doing what you do, but instead it's like, listen,
who's to say I'm not right? I don't know anything. I'm just in like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it feels like there's only one side of the story that's being told, and there were 3 people there, so I'd be curious to see the Ring camera footage. That's all.
Ooh, yeah.
But then we get deep into Al-Anon stuff when Dorit talks about she was protective of PK. She had hidden PK's bad behavior from her family and friends because she didn't want them to hate him. Alert, alert, anyone who is doing this. This is Al-Anon behavior, and there is a room for that.
And just really quick before you go on, I don't think that she was doing a very good job of fooling anyone, though, because even as, watchers, I never got a good vibe from PK, not from the beginning. And
no,
so,
and that's
like, I don't know. I think she thought she was hiding stuff, but I don't
We
think
all
that
do.
Yeah.
I mean,
I didn't mean to interrupt you. It just felt relevant.
It is. And but that's the comedy of addiction is the addict is the last person to know they have a problem. Mm-hmm. Everyone in their life is like, you are not well. Mm-hmm. It's like Karen Huger. She had to release that body camera footage, go to court to finally go to rehab.
God.
She was the last one. All of us were like, you're a drunk just from watching the TV show. Watch the body camera footage. You're sick and you're going to hurt yourself or someone else real soon. She's like, I got to go to court.
She went to rehab to avoid the reunion.
Maybe, but she went to rehab. It doesn't matter what got her there, you know?
Do you think she's ready? She has not seemed ready at all.
She'll probably Luann de Lesseps it, you know?
Okay. Fair.
She's facing
and that's part of recovering in AA is, you know.
Oh, I think, was she sentenced today?
Relapsing. Was she?
I don't know.
I've been trying to like stay off the news. Plus, I was taking fucking notes and was trying so hard not to distract myself on my phone, even though my phone gives me dopamine. And taking notes for this did not. It did the absolute fucking opposite. Anyway, please continue. I'm sorry that I told you.
I just meant she's facing jail time. That would make me ready for rehab. If my options are jail or rehab, showing to the court that I'm contrite and I see that I have a problem, I'm showing the court I'm contrite and I see that I have a problem.
Van Nuys Women's Prison? You don't want to go to Van Nuys Women's Prison?
No, never, not even to pick someone up. Fucking forget that place. Terrifying.
Did you have to go inside or were you allowed just to like pull into the driveway?
No, I went in. It was so upsetting. It was there. You're just powerless if you're in there. I came to pick up my friend who at that point had been in there for 15 hours. And
for people that don't know the story,
sorry. I had a friend who was arrested for a DUI and I got a call. Anyways, that's not relevant. But I went to pick her up and she'd been there for 15 hours and they made me wait for 3 hours. And I kept asking and I was like, can you please let her out? And they were like, they would either ignore me. These sheriffs would keep their back to the window. And I pulled my righteous bullshit of like, excuse me, I am a person here to pick up another person. I will not be ignored. Oh, yes, you will. You will be ignored. You have no power. So they flexed and made me sit on this fucking concrete bench for 3 hours. And finally, they let me see my friend through a glass partition. All right. We were both crying because she was so upset from having been in there. And I was just emotional because I saw her and I was happy to see her okay. So we got to cry at a window and then I had to go sit for another hour and a half. There was nothing going on. It wasn't like busy, hectic. There were 2 deputies behind that window, me on the other side, and they just weren't going to do it until they were ready. And once I finally got that and sat down with my hands in my lap like a good little girl, finally, after an hour and a half of that, they let her out. It was disgusting. And her description of their treatment of her in there was also just like, it's just inhumane awfulness. Like, do not please take an Uber, you guys, just to spare yourself whatever version of Van Nuys Women's Prison is in your neighborhood. It's so goddamn awful.
I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's just like
Van Nuys Women's Prison.
Van Nuys Women's Prison. Yeah, it's just, oh, wow.
It was awful.
Oh,
anyways.
my God. Anyway, okay, so we were talking about Karen Huger for a minute, but how did we...
I don't know. All I know is that, so Dorit has said that she used the word protective of PK, but
that's how we got here. Yes.
Lying to cover up his bad behavior. And Beau's such a good friend, just reflects back to her, wow, what a burden that must have been. And, you know, she says to absorb and put up with and defend everything about this man and his life. And this is the payback, you know, that is, you know, some variation on that. Resentment is kind of the root of all Al-Anon.
I was just going to say
entry stories.
That's
because life is unjust and unfair, and especially if you engage with an addict, it's never gonna. There's no evening out the scale there ever. But I did appreciate Beau's just being a good friend. She really told Dorit, "I get it," and I just thought that is probably more valuable than anything to Dorit right now.
You know what strikes me when you say that, Margie? Oh my God. Okay, so think back to the conversation last season in the dark dining room over pizza and a salad between Kyle and Dorit. Dorit tells her, I'm not sure PK and I are going to make it. And what does Kyle say?
I have those thoughts too. That's the same with me. Me, I, me.
Contrast that with what Bose says. Wow, that must have been such a that sounds like a burden. Ooh, chills. Just adding more evidence. Adding more. Jesus, repellent. She's repellent.
Kyle.
She repels me.
Yeah.
She don't compel me. She repels me. Yeah, we get it, Ramona. Move on. Sorry. Oh, so then we move to Garcelle FaceTiming Sutton, Statler and Waldorf, frickin' frack. And Garcelle is rightly skeptical of why Kyle wants to do this dinner. She's also very excited to have the ladies to her beach house. Garcelle and Sutton, they suspect that Kyle wants the dinner to rally her troops. And yeah, I could smell it a mile away. She had an agenda on the phone with Portia, and now she has an agenda to go to this dinner with her oat milk, vanilla latte, extra hot.
Yeah, I mean, Garcelle, yeah, they're just onto her immediately because Garcelle says, like, when has Kyle ever wanted to hang out with us the night before? We're going to hang out the next day.
Yeah.
So Garcelle's invited all the ladies to her beach house the next day, and Kyle suddenly has an urgency to have a dinner with some, not all, of the ladies. And she, seems to leave out Dorit, who is at the center of all of the issues, and Bose, whose home she stormed out of recently. Mm-hmm. So her apology in this next scene, I was like, this is so dumb that you're doing this without Bose here. The only woman who needs to hear I'm sorry is the woman whose party you made a huge scene at, ruined, and stormed out of in your dumb robe, slippers, and Birkin bag,
Birkin.
You pig.
Sutton calls it, and I probably rewound this scene a couple of times, or this little moment. She's going to victim to try to make them feel sorry for her. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yes, Sutton Strack.
She called it a preemptive protect me move.
Girl.
And I was like, woo, that is it, isn't it? Because Kyle knows that all of this is going to come up when the group is all together at Garcelle's the following day. So she's trying to establish allyship, which is so
trying to manage. She's trying to manage and control. She's trying to manage that outcome. And nothing makes you crazier. I'll speak for myself. Nothing makes me crazier than when I am trying to manage and control, gripping with my nails in the digging in for survival. That's what she's trying to do. She's trying to survive the next day, and she's ridiculous.
Well, she's just at a loss because it doesn't work anymore.
Nope.
It used to work, but this dinner, we go to Kyle's gathering at Arden, whatever this restaurant is.
Have you seen it before?
No, but I guess it's just up on Santa Monica, so I'll go drive by it. It looked cute, but it only has 3 stars, so I was like, I'm not interested. I'm a 4-star and up type of girl.
At least.
I don't know what.
In LA? Come on.
It looked pretty, but I don't know. So Kyle arrives. She orders her oat milk latte extra hot at dinner, which I was like,
I know.
And then Garcelle arrives and just asks, how are you? And Kyle sighs and immediately assumes the position of a victim.
Her agenda was so obvious, Jude. Her agenda was just it couldn't be contained.
She's not a good actress.
Go on, yeah.
She goes, better than last time you saw me. Boo-hoo, you made the scene. You caused the problem. You are the root of this.
Yeah.
And Kyle's like, I have a lot going on and I have so many emotions that she's suppressed and they've been coming to the surface. And I think that is true, but that's your fault. That's your problem. That's not Garcelle's or anyone else's problem. And then Kyle rewrites history and tells the story of feeling ambushed at Bose's party by Bose and Sutton. And then learning that Garcelle had shared with Bose Kyle's text, the contents of Kyle's text to PK, that Garcelle reminds us she did not violate Kyle's trust because Kyle herself read the text aloud on camera. So at this point, this text is in the public domain. So for her to say, why would you do that? It's like, I did it because you said it on the cameras. And so it didn't feel like that is anything personal or something that you're trying to keep away from public view. So, and then Kyle claims that everyone closed in on her and demanded she read the text. What kind of twisted cult is this?
Oh my God.
It's your cult and they're starting to leave. And that's your problem. You're the cult leader and everyone is like, oh, the guy that we've been sleeping with is really ugly and lame. You're Keith Raniere and we hate you. Volleyball's stupid. Bye. That's what's happening, Kyle. That's your cult.
Oh no.
Dumb.
Oh no. Oh no.
See, I'm just so mad. You take over.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Please. So Garcelle says, I mean, you can see it in her expression. She's just like, come on. Do you think I'm a fucking idiot? Are you trying to Heather Dubrow me right now?
Yes.
Do you really think that you're smarter than me? Are you really gonna say that you are a better actress than I am? I'm Garcelle Beauvais. Well, that's not what Garcelle's saying. I'm projecting that onto Garcelle because I think she's a fucking superstar. My point is that she says, if you had just told Dorit, yeah, I talked shit about you with PK. I was also mad at you at the time. She's all, that's normal. That's normal. And Kyle insists that they don't talk about Dorit. Like, I'm sorry, that is your common denominator, is your friend Dorit. Garcelle says, you said you wouldn't share anything. You've told me. That comes across as more than sharing memes. Like, don't bullshit us, Kyle. And then she doubles down and full fucking hips herself. Again, I'm going to say Amazon Live, Amazon Live, Amazon Live. Another exhibit that I forgot to write down in my exhibits later on in my notes. Kyle said over the summer, Dorit's version of close and my version of close are two different things. We're really not as close as she's saying that she is. But then she says right here, in regards to PK, oh, we've been friends for 7 years. So of course we text. Nothing about the relationship. So what is it, Kyle? She keeps saying good friend, good friend, good friend, good friend. But then, 6 months ago, anyway, you know what I'm saying. So
well, also just the specifics of it. Garcelle, said, like, you saying you're going to keep PK's confidence sounds like more than memes. And you've spent this entire season characterizing memes and jokes as the only method of communication you have. And then Kyle just gaslights all of us, pretending that we're all crazy for not being logical enough to assume that she also obviously sends regular texts. What are you, stupid? We've been friends for 7 years. You thought when I said just memes and jokes, that didn't also include all of the other condemning information? No, Kyle. Yeah, she basically is saying that, whatever. It's just, I'm furious. Everything's in all caps. And Garcelle in her confessional says, this is such a generous way to characterize it. She goes, I don't know if her story is shifting or if I heard it wrong, but all this time Kyle's been insisting it's just memes and jokes. And then we get the flashback sequence that deserves an Emmy of its own. The Viper Room where Kyle says, using air quotes, my friendship with PK is just memes and jokes. That's it. Then we go to Sutton's house where she says it's stupid to even have to call anything off with PK because it's just memes and jokes. It's stupid. Then we go to her talking to Garcelle. I think this was new, where she says, PK and I have a similar sense of humor. We send funny memes, about marriage. And Garcelle goes, oh. And I went, oh, about marriage. So that is directly.
Those are digs, right.
And your memes and jokes are about Dorit. So in abstract, you are talking about her, even if it is only memes and jokes in that whole text thread. If they're related to marriage, it's about Dorit. So fuck you.
I mean, honestly, fuck you. So Garcelle's like, I don't know which story is true, but it doesn't feel right. And then we're back at the restaurant and Kyle says, my life is being scrutinized. Now my character is being scrutinized.
This is her script from the first scene that she brought crumpled out of her pocket and tried to revive it here. I did want to say in Garcelle's confessional when she says, I don't know which story is true. That is something that I have learned in therapy. If I have that thought, I have been advised to distance myself from any relationship where I don't know which story is true. In my past, I have spent so much time trying to figure out which story is true. Oh my God. Is the one that I want to be true, or is the other one that's really scary true? But if you don't know, then you're not with a trustworthy person. And that has been a long lesson that I've had to learn over time and incrementally. When Garcelle used that language, I don't know which story is true, I was like, oh, right. And that's when you have to back away from that relationship. Because if someone is unclear or gaslighting or shifting information, that's not a safe human being. And that's someone who will sacrifice you along their road if it serves them at some point. So,
wow, that's 100% true. Being with someone where you don't know what the truth is the most destabilizing feeling. You feel crazy all the time. It's awful. It is awful.
And they bank on that as a method of control. It becomes, they can use that down the line in a way that's really disturbing. So
God.
Anyways.
So Garcelle says, oh, I loved it. So you're very triggered. Is it because it's your character? And Kyle gets so mad that Garcelle would even suggest that. She's mad at Garcelle. And she says, but I've been such a good friend to you, and this isn't helping. I've been such a good friend to her, and this isn't helping. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you? So this is what I hear.
I wrote Amazon Live here. She goes, I've been nothing but a great friend to Dorit. And I wrote Amazon Live, ?
Right.
Have you?
Right.
I mean, it's all so infuriating. It doesn't even matter.
I thought she was yelling at Garcelle there. I thought she was mad at Garcelle right there.
Well, I think she was yelling at Garcelle as if she was Dorit. She's like, I would never cross a line like that. I've been nothing but a great friend to Dorit. So the accusation is not helping us, she said. I'm like, what does that even mean? It's all nonsense anyways, because she's losing her way, losing her footing, losing her control, and absolutely coming undone. Because she cannot function if she doesn't get her way. And then we get into the next satisfying montage where they brilliantly have Kyle set it up by saying, I pride myself on being a very truthful person. And then we go into this lengthy montage of her demanding everyone to lay bare the most personal details of their personal lives. She has to answer for more than she's comfortable with. We deserve to know the truth. And it ends with Kyle in her confessional saying, so for me to be questioned is extremely frustrating. And I just wrote, full hip.
Full hip, man. Full hip. Full hip, man. I mean, the audacity. The audacity. I can't imagine having that amount of audacity and self-obsession and just like willfulness. I can't imagine doing that for even like a minute. I can't imagine.
Especially
can't imagine
the
it.
first flashback is to Denise Richards at that weed dinner, or whenever it was. No, it wasn't the weed dinner. It was the season before that. Anyways, who cares? Denise says, I feel like I'm being attacked. And Kyle goes, when things are put out in the open, they need to be addressed in this group. And Denise just goes, they do not. And Kyle's, like insisting on it. And it's literally an absolute reversal of roles. And Kyle cannot handle being served her own medicine.
And then the next clip is, Exhibit B is in regards to Erica Jane. And Kyle says in regards to Erica, she's not going to like the questions, but that's what's going to happen. She's going to have to answer questions she's not comfortable with. Because you know what? We deserve to know the truth.
Hilarious.
Oh, Jesus Christ. The validation, the sweet, sweet, satisfying validation. You want to take the last exhibit?
The last one is just Sutton, and it's Kyle patting her on the knee saying, I'm just talking about being more honest with the group. God. Which is exactly what Kyle is objecting to, and it is hilarious.
My God. My God. So Erica Jane and Sutton show up, and I loved Sutton's purse, and I abhor Dolce & Gabbana as people. But that purse was so cute.
It's so funny. I was like, I don't get it. Like, it looks like a box with a flyer taped to it. And it was
chunky and like applique. Oh my God. I
love that you get it.
I loved it. I love that purse. It was amazing. Oh, it was amazing. Anyway.
We have some fashion and meatball and pizza pleasantries. And then Sutton, who I normally hate, this is when I do love an alcoholic, because she just goes right in and she wastes no time calling out Kyle's bullshit. And she just goes, all right, I got to ask, why are we here? And I was like, yay.
I wrote, fuck yes, Sutton.
This whole episode, she was great. And even in the scene where people think she's terrible, I still think she was great.
I thought she was resplendent. She spoke on behalf of the chorus.
This is the thing. When an alcoholic is in the right, it's why my dad was such an effective lawyer. When they are on the right side of shit, they just bring down the hammer like nobody else. When they're lying and it's getting off track is when it's really uncomfortable. But this is like an alcoholic in their element. It was brilliant.
Brilliant.
And Kyle said that she brought them there because she wants to apologize. And I, in all caps, and why is Bose not there? I'm so mad. And then Erica says, oh, please don't apologize to me. All caps, shut up, me. So mad. And then Kyle tries for like a very vague and generic policy saying, I stand by what I said and how I feel. And I wrote, okay, so this is not an apology. But she says, I'm sorry for how I acted. And Sutton is like, I got confused in all the words why you were apologizing. Why did you feel you need to apologize? And Kyle looks like completely flabbergasted, turns to the rest of the ladies and like, is it not clear? Is Sutton so stupid? Sutton's so stupid, right? Because I clearly said Sutton's insane for not understanding, right, you guys?
That's it. That was the energy she was getting. Like,
this crazy person. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
but
my
the ladies,
God.
to their credit, gave her nothing. So she did had to continue to sputter on.
Oh, God, I just can't anyway.
And she talks about now she's like, I'm sorry for how I left and that I yelled at everybody. So now we're into a new phase of this apology. So Kyle is not clear about what she's apologizing about, which means she's not really apologizing. And Sutton is not satisfied. So she goes, so you feel bad that you yelled at us? And Kyle gets defensive instead of staying on track with an apology. And she's like, well, I felt like I was being attacked, that my character was being questioned. And I, again, all caps, yes, because your character sucks. Just say sorry. Stop explaining and defending and justifying your terrible behavior. I'm just mad. And then Sutton, in her confessional, articulates what we're all waiting for, which is wanting Kyle to apologize for holding herself to a different standard than everyone else. She is not special and separate, and she should not be an exception to her own fucking rules. And she asked Kyle to get specific. What are you apologizing for that you said? And Kyle is just completely, she cannot stand it because she has no true sense of what she did that's offensive. I really believe she doesn't understand why everyone hates her. And she says, I apologize for saying fuck off, like kind of as a question.
Dude, she's like, that's the thing. This is, obviously, it's not an apology. Like, this is no surprise to anybody, but like, what did she think? I can't see. I'm speechless. She wasn't expecting this pushback. She was probably expecting like the usual bullshit that people have given her for the last 13, 14 years, however she's been on the show.
Absolutely. That was what she was expecting. She hosted this dinner. She invited them. This is Kyle's dinner. She had a very significant expectation that not one of those ladies was there for her. And I loved it.
Oh,
and Garcelle chimes in to remind her, you can apologize for shaming us. And we get a little flashback to her being like, shame on you, women of our age.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Every time I hear it. Every time I hear it.
And Kyle says, defensive again, she doesn't feel the need to go through the list of things she said. And Sutton says, but if you're apologizing, you should be clear about what for. Well, it's my apology and I'm going to say it how I want.
Now, do you know the first thought I had when she said that?
No.
It's my apology, so I'm going to say it the way I want to say it. I was like, this reeks of fucking alternative facts. She alternative facta. What? I'm going to say my apology the way I'm going to say it. I want to say it. That's not how apologies work.
I don't know what that was, because then the next thing out of her mouth was, it's my apology and I'll say it how I want. I apologize for everything I said. And I was like, what? We're back to being no, and it's back to being so general that it's no longer an apology. It's just noise.
Oh my God, dude.
And then Erica wrongly is annoyed with Sutton, thinking she's pushing Kyle too hard. And then she makes this dumb comment. Erica says, what were they like when their husbands walked out? And I go to all caps again. Kyle walked out on Mauricio. Kyle ended that marriage. Watch last season if you forget how that played out. So don't put Kyle in the victim position that she's begging you to put her in. I know Mauricio had a part in it. It takes two. But we watched the season last season. It was Kyle going like, are you off the phone yet? I'm going to go get tattoos with Morgan. Like, Kyle ended that marriage. The marriage was ending for a long time, but she's the one. For Erica to say her husband walked out on her, that is not at all the case. Blow me.
I think, honestly, that Erica is, as Bronwyn would say, riding Kyle's dick like it's her job. Because when Erica was a pariah, you know, she's still a pariah to me, but whatever.
She's just not top pariah anymore.
She's not top pariah.
Now,
oh my
there's
God, you're
plenty
right.
of people in her company now. All these
Okay.
idiots are rising to the surface.
I think she might feel like it's time. I don't think it's not like sing for her supper, but they've got this bond over being the focus of the ire for being shitty, You know, like Erica knows that Kyle's being shitty, but it's like, oh God, I know what it's like to be the shitty one and being called out for being the shitty one.
And not wanting to change anything about it. Because she says in her confessional, if I'm really friends with someone during the worst time of their life, I cut them some slack. And I was like, do you want to cut those widows and orphans some slack? How about $750,000 worth of earrings slack? Like, you just don't want to change. And so I think you're right. Erica is using Kyle to justify her own terrible, disgusting, greedy ass behavior. Ew. And also, I'm sorry, but Kyle is not going through the worst time of her life. Not to be a bitch, but Kyle's divorce is old. Dorit is what's news. You know what I mean? And not to say that Kyle's not going to be in pain about it for a long time, but it's not fresh. Dorit's is fresh. She is the one, like Bo said last episode, she is the one who deserves our attention on this front, not Kyle.
Dude. So Sutton said they were all really surprised at her reaction, and she felt disappointed that she left. And, you know, Kyle, you've yelled at me before, you know, and Kyle says she left because it wasn't good for her mental health. I had to take a breath. I feel like my throat tightening up as I say this because I'm enraged. She's trying to avoid the fact that she needs to work on her own mental health. And this was not leaving for mental health. This was leaving because she was being found out and called out. And she was scared. She was scared and she fucking, what's the right word to say? Like she just ran like a scared little baby bitch. Oh, God, I feel bad that I said that. But you know what I mean? I don't mean it like I call men baby bitches when they can't handle shit. And that's all I'm saying is like she can't take it. She cannot take being called out for her stuff.
Kyle says that she's never behaved like that, which I'm sure is not true. And that's not someone I want to be. That's not who I am. And she says that she wishes she'd been more calm and had said, and in my head, I'm thinking, oh, she's going the direction of, I wish I'd been more calm and I'd said, I'm sorry for hurting you, Dorit, in this most tender and upsetting time in your life. But no, she goes, I wish I'd been more calm and said, you guys are really hurting my feelings. I was like, oh my God, you are so self-centered. It's kind of impressive. It's like, it is almost like Groundling's character impressive. You know, at the Groundlings, you tell people to like zero in on one personality trait and like only play that to the 10th level. And that is what it's self-centered in a way that's so creative. It's almost interesting if it weren't so gross.
You're right. It's like to be studied.
That one took me by surprise.
It's so shocking. Like it's so shocking to see. And it's like to see the continuous falling down the hill and just like unstoppable falling. What?
That was crazy.
Yeah.
And so we had gotten to the part where Kyle was talking about leaving for her mental health. And I'm with you. I'm like, well, then would you kindly tend to your mental health? Because just leaving the situation doesn't cure whatever is mentally unwell. If you have the stomach flu and you step away from the dinner table, you're still barfing until, you get some treatment. So I don't know.
Good point. Very good point.
And Kyle suggests that moving forward, they need to find a different way as a group to deal with these things.
She needs to find a new way to deal with this stuff. And that's on her.
Sutton gracefully agrees, but they do. But it requires all parties to participate. I mean, Sutton was kind of kneeling her, whatever. They could all find a different way, but Kyle was at the center of that problem. And just won't see it so.
Yes. Yeah, Sutton says Kyle is afraid it's going to get brought up at Garcelle's beach house, and she wants to know she has allies. And then Sutton says, probably my favorite thing that's ever been said across these franchises. I'll tell you this, Erica might be a minion, but Garcelle and Sutton, we're no minions. And Margie, I rewound it 4 fucking times. It was the sweetest, most delicious justice, and to just Sutton Strack is my problematic MVP. Nene Jiff, I said what I said. Problematic MVP.
In this episode, I'm with you. I think she got it right every time.
And the delivery made it sweeter. The
Because
delivery.
It's true.
Yes.
And that's the thing, is they're all finally fed up enough to speak these really clear, simple, direct truths that soothe the part of my heart that's on fire, because I'm like, I don't understand. This is so terrible and wrong. And they're like, you know, they just put a little cooling pad on that part of my heart and go like, it's okay. We get it. And I'm like, thank you. Yep. Erica might be a minion, but Garcelle and Sutton, we are not minions.